Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about realizing your dream of becoming your own boss. So my name is Brandon. This is my wife and dance partner, Chelsea. Say hello to the people, Chelsea.
Are you demanding that I say hello?
You say hello to them. All right, so we're going to be talking about realizing your dream of becoming self-employed. There's three things that I ultimately want to accomplish with this video today. I want it to be A, hopeful, B, informative, but also C, realistic. So we're not only going to be talking about the amazing things of becoming your own boss, but I think potentially the pitfalls that other people don't share or discuss when it comes to running your own business. So before we even get started with anything like that, I'd like to start off with some words of wisdom that are not my own. So this actually comes from Proverbs 14:23, and it says, "Work brings profit, but mere talk leads to poverty." So you can talk the talk all you want, but if you don't walk the walk, then this is all for naught. Okay, so we're going to break this down into essentially like 5 bullet points when it comes to becoming your own boss. So the first one is going to be dream. Number 2 is going to be self-evaluation. Number 3 is seeking knowledge. Number 4, incrementally overlapping your current work with your future business. And number 5, discerning when it is time to shift from employed to self-employed. Okay, so bullet point number 1 is probably the easiest step that you're going to take. It's one of the most important ones, though, and obviously this one we're calling dream. So for me, dream is like establishing a clear picture of the vision that you want for your passion that can also become your future profession. So that's kind of my idea when it comes to dreaming. For you, when it came to like the dream phase for you, what do you think that looked like? Like, how would you say that you came into your passion or your dream?
I think that with dancing, I didn't think that it was going to be possible to do it as a profession. But I always loved dancing movies and all of this stuff. So when it came to like dreaming about doing it, I didn't know what that looked like. I just knew that I loved it. And then when I found out that I could go professional, I thought I was too old. But when I realized that I could go professional, then I started to dream from a standpoint of I could be at a high level if I just put work into it. And so then my dream became a realization of a possible reality.
So for you, you started with the passion. You loved.
I just loved it.
Yeah.
And then when I realized I just loved it, everything about it. I didn't realize you could do something with it at my age. And when I realized that I could, then it started to become a daydream. Then it started to become like, okay, this could be a possibility of a dream come true. The hardest thing to do when dreaming about something is learning to ignore negativity. Like learning how to decipher, is this person just trying to be realistic with me and give me some heads up and some wise counsel? Or is this person just a naysayer and it's because they don't understand what your dream is, which we've had multiple times. Even when our dream was realized of being professional dancers, that came true pretty quickly because, once you just get into it, then it's up to you to keep up with it. It was within the dancing when we started having dream upon dream upon dream that nobody else had done in the dance industry prior to us. Like no one had done it.
So when you're talking about this person not understanding or this person maybe you're trying to discern, are they being a naysayer or do they just not understand?
Counsel. Yeah, are they being a naysayer? Are they wise counsel just trying to give you like encouraging you but saying, look, this is a reality? Or is it just that they don't understand what you're doing and so they're like, no. Like those are 3 separate personality types, and we've had all 3 in our life.
So just keep in mind that when Chelsea says this person, she could very well be talking about your boss, your coworker, your friends, or even your own family sometimes. So what we have found over the years is we have the dream between us. We have the passion between us, and we share it very, very selectively.
That's had to be learned over time of who exactly we open up to about specific things that we really are passionate about. especially with like something that's in the baby stages that you've started to take a step towards, you want to be very, very careful with who you open up to about those situations.
Yeah. So when it comes to your vision, when it comes to your dream, your future business, again, you have a clear picture of what it is. You're very selective about who you share it with, because people can just say they can say things offhanded that can really derail you in the very beginning stages. Whereas if you would have just kept that to yourself, you wouldn't have had to deal with that anxiousness or anxiety. I think there's a saying something like, "Do your dreams in the dark." Do your dreams in the dark and let your success do the talking, or something like that.
Yeah, that's typically like a motivational. Um, that's typically like a motivational thing that people say. Sorry, I'm just like I'm like a monkey. I'm like a chimp. Like,
Over here grooming and talking.
This is good for me. Like I need to keep myself busy while speaking. So grooming you is where it's at.
Great. That's the dream. That's the vision.
No one else does this. There's a reason, Chelsea.
We're creating a unique flavor. Okay, so we're going to get into point number 2 now. To me, besides obviously number 1, this is the most important. This is where all of the bread and butter is going to be for this whole video, because this is where we start to figure out our own deficiencies. This step we're calling self-evaluate. So we are presuming that if you're watching this video, let's just pick a broad category. You are employed underneath somebody, so you don't own your own business or your own building. You're employed underneath somebody, you collect wages from them, and they're sort of in control of your schedule, but you hope to someday have your own business and establish your own schedule and your own pay, that sort of thing. So that's sort of the thrust of the video, is we're starting from there. Now, if you're already self-employed and you're just looking for some more tips, all of this stuff is going to be helpful as well. But we're going to take it from the perspective of you're an employee working to become self-employed. Mm-hmm. So the self-evaluate phase is the most important, because you need to figure out what areas of your life you're not in control of, or you're not the boss of yet, and then you need to take control of those areas of your life. So examples of things that you're not in control of right now. You're not in control of your schedule. Let's say it's similar to how Chelsea and I was set up. Our work day started at noon and it went till 9, and that was Monday through Friday, and then we sometimes, most of the times, worked on Saturday. So it was over 40 hours a week for us. So that was outside of our control. We couldn't dictate our schedule. We even had a dress code. So of course we had some freedom within the dress code, but we couldn't exactly wear anything that we wanted. So we weren't in control of that.
You have to be professional.
Right. There's nothing wrong with being professional. I'm just saying that was an aspect that we didn't have more say over. So those are things that you don't have control of. Things that you do have control of are outside of the workplace and even within the workplace. So what I mean by that is, do you go to bed a different time each night? Maybe you can take control of that. Maybe rather than going to bed at 1 in the morning or something like that, you just decide, okay, hard stop at 11 p.m. whether I'm tired or not. I'm going to lay in my bed and try and get to sleep, and do that for a while. Do you wake up a different time each morning? Maybe try and take control of that. So have a dedicated time where you're waking up and you're taking control of your life in different areas like that. We're just giving examples of like schedule, but just recently we produced a video called 3 Ways to Take Control of Your Life. And if you want to go back and review that video, we have 3 helpful tips, and one of them is taking control of your morning. Are there any other aspects to self-evaluation that you kind of want to touch on?
Being realistic to your own behaviors and your own weaknesses, I think, is key, because I think that prior to just like going all out and going out on your own and doing your own thing, it sounds like a dream. And it sounds like something that you really, like, you would just thrive if you just didn't have these people in your life. Okay, well, this is where the realistic, more self-evaluating wisdom comes in. while you have financial security right now, where it's like maybe it's not as much as you would like to be making right now, but you have stability in this time frame, use this time to kind of figure out, okay, am I a little bit lazy when it comes to this, that, or the other? Do I go out of my way to accomplish tasks that aren't my own? Am I showing up to work late? Do I talk back to people for no reason? It's just, we all have problems that we have to work on and we have to get better at. Like sometimes like you can, lose your temper, or maybe you don't get enough sleep, or whatever it is. As long as you're just kind of like pinpointing, like just have the realization of, okay, I'm a great worker, but this is my flaw. I do this really good, but this is what I need to work on. And then you can like evaluate those things. What can I do to improve these areas of my life now? This helps you to take the first step of being your own boss. Because if you're just dreaming and you're just thinking that everybody's going to be doing everything for me and because they want to help me with my dream, and you're just trying to like go out on your own because you think it's going to be easier for you, that'll only last for so long before you're having to kind of like manipulate and steal from other people. You need to make sure that there's discipline just on your characteristics. Discipline there first. That way you can move forward after that. Did I talk too long?
No, you didn't. And actually, you gave me another thought. So you know how I read you that quote the other night from, I think it was Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War. We're pulling from everywhere. So it was a plan for what is difficult while it is easy.
Yeah.
As you were talking, it clicked for me.
Did it?
It made
Finally?
sense.
Yeah.
Because what's the other saying? Money doesn't change you, money reveals you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change you, it magnifies the characteristics that you already have. So when we talk about the self-evaluation phase, while you're an employee, if you're late to work, it's going to be magnified when you have a team underneath you of people who rely on you. If you are a procrastinator while you're an employee, it's going to be magnified. And now it doesn't just affect you, but it affects all of the people that you've employed underneath you.
Or your clients.
Exactly.
It doesn't, like, let's forget about the employees, because we don't have any employees yet. But
we have clients.
You have clients, and you have just because you're going out on your own, sounds like a dream, and it is, and I would never change it.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that responsibility and accountability doesn't exist anymore. You
Right.
still have a responsibility to someone.
So figure out what your deficiencies are now while it's easy and you have the safety net of the business that you're working under. They pay the rent, they pay a portion of your taxes, they pay for some of your health insurance. So you don't have to worry about any of those things, but if you can figure out your deficiencies now, this is your dress rehearsal. It's not a waste of time. This is your dress rehearsal for your future of being self-employed. I'm so sorry. Easy now. Whoa. So use this time wisely. And that was something you brought up the other day that I really liked, is like use the time that you have while you're working underneath someone else to basically like, how would I act in this situation if this was my business?
I think that so first of all, just figuring out, okay, what are my characteristic flaws? How can I immediately change them? This doesn't cost you anything except for self-discipline and consistency and a change of mind. And ultimately, like, it may feel like, oh, why do I have to change myself? Why can't they change? You cannot, there's going to be problems everywhere that you go. Even when you're self-employed, you're going to face issues where you're going to have to rely on wisdom and characteristic qualities that you've built over time. So you have to take care of it. It has to happen. You can only be responsible for what you do and what you say and how you act. You cannot change anybody else. They're not going to change.
Correct.
We were in, I don't even know how many studios, so many studios, and there's always going to be drama. There's always going to be he said, she said, bull crap, and people thrive off of that. Like, this is just, if you noticed, if you take a step back and you look at it, you're like, this is their fuel. The drama and the he said, she said, and the back and forth. It's just, there's a lot of it, and people love it because it keeps their brain occupied. It makes them feel alive in a sense. But if you just take a step back out of it, remove yourself from those situations, you'll start to realize what a waste of time and energy that is. So first of all, get yourself out of that completely, and people will notice and they'll be mad at you for it because they'll feel like you think you're better than them, when in reality you're just protecting yourself, and you're utilizing that energy that you were focused on all of the drama and all of the crazy. Now you can refocus it and put it on eating correctly, going to the gym, making a schedule for yourself over the weekend or in the mornings or at night when you're finished with your day-to-day job. You can utilize, and you're not as bogged down either.
Correct.
Just removing yourself from the chatter and the talk and everything, because it really is just so damaging, and it's such a waste of time.
To take some of the sugar out of it, because you put it very nicely and sweetly, I would say losers thrive on that sort of energy. And those types of people, those types of people will always be working for someone else. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying someone who gets their excitement and joy out of the everyday drama, like that is their fuel, like you were saying, those people are wasting their energy. And like Chelsea was saying, all you're doing is you're pulling yourself out of those situations, and you're devoting more energy and time towards, I really want to be focusing on managing myself, because if I manage myself, my manager won't have to tell me to show up on time, to fix my tie, to whatever it is. I will do that myself, and then my manager will leave me alone.
Sometimes.
But that's a whole different video.
That's a whole different video. Utilizing the situation that you're in right now, I would say, like, when a bunch of drama would happen, I think it was our very last studio that we worked for. It was absolute chaos. It was absolute drama, chaos, busy idiot stuff everywhere. And when I was in it, like, we were really depressed. And when I was in it, I remember thinking to myself, it had to have been the Holy Spirit, like, helping me, because I needed it. I was, like, looking at all of it, and I was like, you know what? How can I utilize these crazy situations where they're trying to get under my skin, they're taking what I've made and throwing it in the trash, treating me like trash. They don't respect the time that I've put into any of the projects that I had worked on. They made a demand, they made it last minute, I made it last minute, and then they threw it in the trash and said, no, start over. And it was purpose. I could tell, I was like, this is on purpose to completely throw me off and upset me. And I started, instead of like getting angry and frustrated with the fact that I knew what they were doing and giving into what they were doing, I was like, how can I make this benefit myself? And so I flipped it, and I said, okay, they want a last minute project done, and I need to get it done in an hour. So what did that do? It helped me with pressure, the pressure of coming up with something at last minute in a short amount of time. So I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be efficient, and I'm not going to let any of the drama or any of the anxiety take over so that I can finish this project. I present the project, I give it to them, they hate it. No, do it again. We've changed our minds. We want to do this now. Don't let it bother you. Okay, fine. They're paying you for their games. So look at it as, this is training for myself. I am able to take their ridiculous tactics and use it to my advantage to speed up my process, not be bothered by the drama or the fact that they're trying to throw me off, and not be offended when they don't like what I've given them, and to move on and not be emotionally attached to it and get to work on the next thing. And I honestly think that was the worst studio we've ever been in my life. The best place to learn all this, because I don't think had we not gone through that time frame, had the Holy Spirit not kind of prompted me to stop acting emotionally and start thinking logically and utilizing those crazy times, I would not have learned that. And I still, to this day, I'm like, when people talk to me about the drama that they're facing in studios or with friends or whatever, this is like the story, my go-to story every time, because I'm like, I'm telling you, it changed my outlook on everything, because I can use this in so many situations. It's
basically like work Tai Chi. You like took their energy and used it against them.
And then I threw it back at them.
You became water. You could flow or you could crash.
I just thought it was like, even talking about it now, like I don't know why it excites me so much, because I'm like, at that point, it doesn't matter. They can try as hard as they might, but they're not going to win, because there's nothing. I'm just, okay.
Well,
Moving on.
I think we kind of talk about it like this. It's like there's two types of people, and who would you rather survive with on like a desert island or a tropical island? It's like, so your plane crashes, and you know you're stuck in the woods, and there's no food, no water, and you're like, man, it would be great if I had like a pocket knife and like a bundle of rope right now. You know what I mean? But you're just complaining because you're like, oh my gosh, we've crashed. What are we gonna do? And then other people are like weaving together sticks to try and make rope.
If you crash on a deserted island, you want me with you, for sure. Me and my dad.
So which kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be a whiner or a thriver? You know, someone who's going to survive in any situation that you put them in. And your example is not just surviving, but it's actually learning something in the process that you've been able to
In the
do in the
crap
future.
situation, like amongst the actual crap that you're in, being able to twist that and turn it to your benefit is huge. It's huge. And it's just a mindset where you just flip the switch, and you do not, at that point, you do not allow that other person to control whether you succeed or not, because I think that that's a really difficult thing when you're working for someone or you're working around other people. It's very difficult because jealousy is a real cancer, and if you allow it to leak into what you're doing, it can really kill any willpower or even like want to do any good, because typically the ones that work the hardest and quiet and they're diligent are not the ones that get the promotion. They're not the ones that get the pat on the back. It's the squealers. It's the squeaky wheel that seems to somehow always get the better end of the deal. It's being able to work through those situations in spite of all of that. This is not your forever situation. You're, in spite of people wanting you to be brought down, you're still pushing forward.
So this is the longest section of the video, but again, it's the most important section. So the self-evaluation, taking category of your strengths, taking category of your weaknesses, working on and rehearsing them now while you're employed underneath somebody. That way, when you become self-employed, you can, again, magnify on your strengths, and you can get rid of more of your deficiencies, especially when you have either employees or you have responsibilities to clients. So it's one of the most important aspects of the video, but I think let's go ahead and move on to point number 3, which is seeking knowledge. This one will be maybe quick. So here's my thing in dance, and I'm going to use dance as an example. There are a lot of people who put a lot of stock in how much time they've been doing said activity. So for instance, there will be someone who will be like, well, I've been teaching for 15 years. And certainly experience has its merit, but you could take someone who's been dancing for 5 years and they've been seeking out coaching, seeking out training, always seeking to make themselves better from other former champions and professionals who have come before them. And that 5-year person is like far and above the person who's been doing it for 15 years, who's just doing the deedly bop, you know, in the studio.
Diddly bop.
And wasting time for 15 years. And I don't mean to belittle anyone's lifestyle, but what I will say is, again, time is not always a metric of success. In fact, it's, again, kind of like, what knowledge have you sought out? Who have you learned it from? Like in martial arts, like if you do jujitsu, for instance, the Gracie family is like the family that everyone knows, like by their name, the reputation of their name, that if you train jujitsu at a McDojo, you know, you're going to be okay.
McDojo.
But if you train with the Gracies, like, you really know what you're doing, especially if you're like a blue belt or a brown belt. Like, this actually has meaning. It means something. So it's the same thing with dancing. It's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with any profession. This is all part of going and getting proper training from people who have actually done it before you.
I think yes. I've also seen people who use that as almost like a credential where it's like, oh, I was in the same room as so and so and we rubbed elbows one time. Um, Even still, even if you've trained with the best of the best of the best and you've spent thousands of dollars on any kind of training, unless you're applying it to life, unless you're actually going through the steps that they gave you, it still doesn't mean anything. Just because you
Correct.
say that you saw someone one time or they taught you this one time, just to turn around and regurgitate the verbiage that they used but didn't apply it to your body, like dancing is a great example of that, because we can teach someone how to do a proper spiral, but unless we've actually done it ourselves and started to work it, all it is just chatter. Again, you can't teach someone what was that quote? I always forget it.
You can't lead someone where you haven't been.
Yeah. So like somebody can like have the verbiage of whatever the thing is, but unless they've done it themselves, it's
So rather than name dropping like who you've worked with,
right.
it's the practical application of the
Yes.
knowledge that you've inherited. And in the seeking knowledge phase, again, there's no excuse not to know things now. So on one end of the spectrum, you have someone who's been doing it for 15 years, so they think they know everything. On the other end of the spectrum, you have someone who has more degrees, more college degrees than a thermometer, and they have zero business experience. So they're kind of essentially, I don't want to say anything mean. They have no business experience. So when it comes to you, again, if you're seeking knowledge, whatever your particular field and dream is, you need to be specific in the knowledge that you're seeking out. If it has anything to do with presenting travel opportunities or packages or something like that, then increase your speaking skills,
Yeah.
increase your communication skills. That's as easy as going to, the library or Barnes and Noble and getting a, how to communicate effectively for dummies book. And then, like Chelsea was talking
Apply
about,
it.
apply
Like
the
actually
knowledge.
apply it, and don't be afraid of putting yourself into an awkward position where you have to start using it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is another thing that you can go back to step 2 and start using it in the environment that you're already in. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything wrong with like this person has 15 years of experience and this person has 5. Just because this person didn't go compete or do shows or whatever, they just like a 15-year teacher, that's fine as long as they're like like
As long as
that,
they're not pretending to be something
don't
they're not.
correct. I think that that's where the problem is when you've been around people, the verbiage, and then you just start demanding the same respect from like a competitor, but you didn't do it. That's where I have the problem. I don't care if you want to just be like a phenomenal teacher, a phenomenal competitor, a phenomenal judge, a phenomenal coach, like whatever owner. Like if you want to go in those directions, focus on that direction. Don't expect that you're going to get the same recognition from this side when you didn't do that.
So far we have basically 3 things that we've done, and we haven't even started our own business yet. So we have dream, we have self-evaluate, and we have seeking knowledge. So now we're going to go ahead and get into our 4th point, which is going to basically, you're going to take your current workload and you are going to start downgrading or lowering the amount of workload that you put into your current job as you begin to incrementally increase what you're doing on what some people would call like your side hustle. So your side hustle is what you want your dream to be eventually. And at a certain point, you'll begin to, let's say you work a 9 to 5, and then you come home and you do podcasting or you do a blog or whatever it happens to be, and you're working on that. You went from having one job where you're working for someone else to now you have 2 jobs.
Correct.
And one of them is self-inflicted. You don't want your side hustle, which you want to become your primary hustle, to start to really harm you on your primary job, because that could be detrimental. That's why we talked about managing yourself, self-evaluating, because if you don't want to lose anything over here, but you'll get to a point where your side hustle starts to actually make more sense to devote more time and energy to. Can you kind of pinpoint when in our life that started to happen? Because you and I both had a job that was related to dance, but it wasn't necessarily us teaching lessons. It wasn't our business. When did we make or start to make that switch?
I think that it was just when we started to find the clientele that we needed to get out of the part-time jobs that we had.
Okay. And our clientele had to kind of work around our work schedule. Like, obviously we had work that we had to get done. Now, thankfully for us, it was super early in the morning, and with our particular profession, like,
People need evenings typically.
yes.
Yeah.
So it worked out for us that the overlap wasn't bad.
Well, and I think that too, even something as simple as scheduling.
So that ties directly in with point number 5. So we'll just tie that all together.
Sweet.
So point number 5 is discern when it is time to shift from the employed to the self-employed bracket. You need to be protective over your schedule, because you'll hear people say you don't run a small business, your small business runs you. And I think that that's probably a mistake to think that way.
It does not have to be that way.
No, it doesn't. And this is the thing. When you have your primary job and you're hoping to get out from underemployment and you're looking to get into self-employment, you're going to have to discern when exactly is the right time. Okay, financially, I think it makes sense for me right now to say goodbye to my former, place of employment, to basically hand in my notice, and to start to really focus on putting all of my energy into the business. You're going to have to discern when that is, when it makes the most financial sense for you.
Yeah, I think that even when we were pretty good, we were stable with our clientele. It's not like we were like stable for a week and we were like, okay, see ya, peace, I'm out of here. It was not like that at all. I think that we stayed with our part-time jobs because we fitted in the schedule, it made sense, and it was extra cash that we were getting throughout the week. We didn't leave because we felt more secure over here. We were, but we didn't leave because of that reason. I think that the opportunity will present itself. You'll start to realize, okay, I've dealt with this long enough, or I've been here for this amount of time. It's now time for it's very obvious that it's time for me to move on.
Mm-hmm. So if when you find that point finally, and your side hustle has more or less become your main profession now, it's important protecting your schedule. And again, this can seem selfish up front. It can seem a little bit hard, but really all you're doing is you're setting boundaries and you're respecting your time. And if you set boundaries and you respect your own time, then other people will learn to also respect your time.
You're basically teaching people, this is what I expect.
Just to give you a quick example to latch on to of what that looks like. Essentially, Chelsea and I have, we teach Monday through Friday, occasionally on Saturdays, and we make that very apparent. And we have our training schedule that also happens Monday through Friday. Those training hours, no one can schedule.
No, you're not allowed to. No one's allowed to.
You can ask. We're going to say no, and we're going to give you another time. Also, Sundays, we don't teach on Sundays. And the reason for that is because we need to rest, we need to refuel, and we need to get ready. We have put a hard stop on our schedule because we know that we physically, spiritually, and mentally need that in order to do the best job that we can Monday through Friday. So again, you're setting a hard stop, and you are going to have to make sacrifices. There's going to be one or two of your clients that are potentially going to say, the only time I can do is the time you say you can't teach me. And you're going to have to look at that person and say, then I've got nothing for you. If you can't take option B or C that I've given you, then I'm not the teacher for you, or I'm not the builder for you, or I'm not the whatever for you. And that client can go somewhere else and be happy.
Typically, they won't. Typically, if you just come to them and say, the best I can do is this time and this day.
But if you take the other road, if you take the blue pill, then what happens is you bend a little bit. And
you're bending instantly.
You teach on the day that you weren't supposed to teach, and then it happens the next week, and then it happens the next week. And before you know it, you are building someone's home, you're working on someone's website, you're doing your podcast, or you are teaching your clients at all completely different times, and the only one who's in control of your schedule is everyone else and not you. So
And everything that you wanted to build prior to leaving your 9 to 5 job is now running your life just like the other, and then you just feel like you're in constant catch up, and you'll get burnout really really fast if you don't protect your schedule and have some strict guidelines. This doesn't mean you have to go around and like tell everyone this is my schedule and that's the way it's gonna be, period. You gently and professionally guide your clients to what is available. That's it. You don't even have to say what's unavailable.
right, just like when you look up a business and they have their hours of operation, you don't call the business and ask if they can stay open an extra 2 hours. That just doesn't make sense. So
Some people might.
you are your own business and you have your hours of operation, and you really need to hold on to that, be firm to it, and I promise you that if you do it that way, then you will be in the lead of it, you'll be in control of it, and it won't be leading or controlling you.
And this all ties into the very first, or the second step that we gave you today. Taking control of your own behavior is the start of becoming your own boss. And if you're taking control of your own behavior in situations, when it comes to stuff like this, as you build and as you start to become more and more in control of how your life is being run, those little tiny steps that you took in the very beginning when you were like being honest with yourself and saying, I don't really do this well. How can I fix that? That little step and discipline will help you with all of this other stuff. And it'll keep happening. Like, we could keep going on and on and on. Scheduling could be an entire video on its own.
Mm-hmm.
It seems simple and it seems small, but it's amazing how people don't really understand how to. It's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard because it's like, I need the clientele, I need the money, but how do I professionally and respectfully protect myself and make money at the same time?
So again, I hope we hit all three of the goals that we had for today, being hopeful, informative, but also being realistic. Like, not just giving you the flowery, sugar-coated, oh, it's going to be this beautiful experience, you're going to have Mai Tais on the beach. And
Yeah, well, the trend right now is for people to get real excited, and you can become your own boss, and you can make this many figures in a week, and da-da-da-da, but like, download my PDF in order to get the deets. It's very surfacey, and you can't trust stuff like that, and it's unfortunate.
Well, you know what they say about if it sounds too good to be true. It
Then
probably
it
is.
But these are at least things that you can. It's not costing you anything except for self-examination and discipline, and being able to move through life that's already difficult and be able to take control of those moments throughout the day. And I'm telling you, like, when you consistently do it, there will be a time where it just, like, the light bulb just, like, goes off, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm, like, doing it. I feel lighter. Because trouble is going to come. Whether you've set yourself up for a paradise or not, there are always going to be troubles. There's always going to be stress and anxiety, and it's learning how to handle those situations wisely. That's where the true freedom and peace comes from.
So try and implement the 5 phases, and if there's any phase that you're already in that you have questions about, be sure to let us know down in the comment section below. If there's any of the 5 phases that you have already done and it's worked really well in your life, again, please feel free to share that sort of information, because we should all be taking inspiration from each other. But otherwise, I think that is going to be a wrap for that video. So again, we hope that you guys really enjoyed it. We hope that you have a wonderful day. This video will explode in 3, 2, 1.